The silent arrival of the stars over Sector 9 had always been quiet. For thousands of years, nothing strange had passed through that empty stretch of space. The border patrol ships of the Galactic Union often joked that it was the most boring. Post in the galaxy. Tonight, no one was laughing. Lieutenant Varric stared at his scanner. At first, he thought the system was broken. A signal had appeared far beyond the edge of known space. A huge, slow-moving shadow. It was not marked in the Union's registry. No ship ID, no transponder, no known design. Then another shadow appeared, and another, and another. Within minutes, the scanner was full of them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Varric's voice shook as he called the control tower. "Command, we have unidentified ships entering from the void." The voice on the other side was calm at first. "Describe them." Varric swallowed hard. They're big. No lights, no signals, just black." The officer on the other side hesitated. That silence was worse than any alarm. Far above, in the cold dark between the stars, the fleet moved like a living wall. Their hulls were jagged and dark, the metal scarred as if they had sailed through storms no one had survived. Not a single window glowed. Not a single engine burned bright. Yet they moved fast, without sound, like ghosts. On the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Kalen stood tall, his eyes fixed on the galaxy ahead. He had been born in the dark, far beyond the reach of any star. For 30,000 years, his people had hidden, rebuilt, and prepared. Now, the time for hiding was over. The crew around him worked in silence. They all knew the orders. No greetings, no warnings, no mercy. In the Union's capital, a council meeting was interrupted by a priority. Signal. A hologram appeared above the table, a grainy image of the black ships. At first, the council members argued. Some claimed it was a drill. Others said it was pirates. But then the Union's oldest historian spoke. Her voice trembled. "I have seen those ships before, in drawings, in ancient archives." She pointed at the jagged hulls. "They belonged to species 001, humans." The room went silent. Humans were a ghost story, a race that had once lived on a green and blue planet called Earth, a race that the Union's ancestors had destroyed in a cleansing war. The official records said they were extinct. Now, it seemed, extinction had been a lie. Back in Sector 9, the patrol ships tried to hail the newcomers. No answer. Only the soft hum of the scanners. Then it happened. A single deep voice filled every channel. It was old, cold, and heavy with a weight no one could measure. "We are the children of Earth." The message repeated once, then the channels went dead. No more words. No demands. The fleet kept moving, crossing the border without slowing down. On the Union's news networks, panic spread fast. People whispered of the old stories, of a time when humans had been fierce, stubborn, and unbreakable, of how they had fought the Union to the very last breath before Earth was turned to ash. No one knew where the survivors had gone. Now, everyone knew they had never stopped coming back. In his patrol ship, Varric kept his eyes on the scanner. The fleet was so big, the screen could not display all of it at once. It stretched from horizon to horizon. The shadows moved with terrifying precision, like the heartbeat of something ancient and unstoppable. Varric's captain spoke quietly. "They're not here to talk." Inside the lead ship, Admiral Kalen looked at the image of Earth on the main display. It was not the Earth of green forests and blue oceans. This was the last recorded image, a dead sphere, covered in smoke and fire, its oceans boiled away. The recording had been passed down through generations, burned into the mind of every child born in the dark. Kellen's hand closed into a fist. For 30,000 years, they had waited. They had built weapons the galaxy had never seen. They had trained fleets the galaxy had never fought, and now they had returned to the place that had once spat on their ashes. The Union sent a final warning. Unidentified fleet, you are entering restricted space. Turn back or face military action. For the first time, the humans replied with movement. The black ships shifted formation, spreading out like wings around the border worlds. Weapons powered up, silent but deadly. Admiral Kalen gave the first command. Lock targets. No survivors. On Sector 9's main world, alarms screamed. Families ran into shelters. Ships tried to escape, but the human fleet moved faster than anything the Union had built. The first blast came like a sunrise, a white light tearing through the sky, followed by silence. When the smoke cleared, the planet's defense grid was gone. In its place was only fire. The patrol ships fled, broadcasting desperate messages across the galaxy. But everyone knew it was too late. The children of Earth were here, and they had not come for peace. The memory of Ash the of the engines filled Admiral Kellen's quarters. He stood in the center of the room, staring at a glass case that stretched from floor to ceiling. Inside was a layer of dark, dry soil. It didn't look special. To anyone else, it was just dirt. But to Kalen, it was everything. It was Earth. He reached out, resting his palm against the glass. The soil had been taken from the ruins of his homeworld before the last survivors fled into the deep void. It had been guarded for 30,000 years, passed down from one generation to the next, never forgotten, never forgiven. Every child of Earth grew up hearing the story. How the Galactic Union had once seen humans as too dangerous to exist. How the cleansing fleets came without warning, burning cities, boiling oceans, turning the skies black. How Earth screamed in its final hours, a sound still stored. In the oldest human archives, Kalen had heard those recordings since he was a boy, the cries of the dying, the roar of fire, the silence that followed. He closed his eyes, and the memories came alive again, dot in his mind. He saw his ancestors. Last days. The humans had fought back with everything they had. Railguns that cracked enemy hulls, missiles that burned like stars. But the Union's fleets were endless. One by one, Earth's defenders fell dot in the final hours, as the cleansing beams cut through the planet's crust. The last survivors fled in scattered ships. Most were destroyed before leaving the solar system. Only a few escaped. Those few carried the soil, the recordings, and the oath dot, we will return. We will burn the ones who burned us. Kalen opened his eyes. That oath had guided every human decision for 30,000 years. Hidden in the dark between galaxies, humanity had rebuilt itself. They had learned patience. They had learned silence. And they had learned how to make weapons the Union could not imagine. He turned away from the soil and faced the wall display. It showed the Union's border worlds, one by one, blinking red as human fleets approached. Commander Rin entered quietly. She was young, born into the fleet, but her eyes carried the same fire as every child of Earth. It's begun, she said. Virella's defenses are falling. Kalen nodded. Good. Make sure the archives record everything. The galaxy. We'll watch, and it will remember. Rin hesitated. There are civilians. Should we? Kellen's voice was cold. Were our civilians spared? Rin said nothing. She knew the answer. Far ahead, on the Union colony of Virella, the people were already running. The black ships had appeared above their skies without warning. The defense grid, thought to be impenetrable, had fallen in less than 2 minutes. Governor Mar of Virella sent desperate messages to the Union High Command. They are ghosts. We fire, and nothing stops them. Their weapons cut through. Shields like they're not even there. But High Command could not help. Their own systems were under attack. Back on the lead ship, Kalen stood before the main holoscreen. Varela was burning. Orbital strikes lit up the night side of the planet like lightning. Entire city blocks disappeared in seconds. The bridge crew said nothing. They all knew what this meant. The first act in a war that would not end until every Union world was dust out an alert chimed. A captured Union scout ship had been brought aboard. Kalen walked to the hangar, where the battered vessel sat under guard. Inside, the pilot was shaking. A thin, pale alien with wide, terrified eyes. You're supposed to be extinct," the pilot whispered. Kalen stared at him. "We were. You made sure of that." The pilot trembled. "Then, why come back? After so long? Why?" "Now?" Kalen stepped closer until their faces were inches apart. "Because time does not heal all wounds. Some it sharpens." He turned to his guards. "Send him back to his fleet. Let him tell them what he saw." The guards hesitated. "Alive?" Kalen smiled coldly. "For now." Hours later, the Union received the scout's transmission. The image was shaky, the pilot's voice breaking. "They don't want peace. They don't want talks. They just want us gone." Then his face twisted with horror. "They call themselves the children of Earth. And they say, they've only just begun." In the Union capital, fear spread like wildfire. The High Council met in secret, debating whether to send their full fleets against the humans or to sue for peace before it was too late. But the humans didn't wait for answers. Their fleets were already moving deeper into Union space. The first strike the planet Varela had always been proud. It was one of the Union's oldest colonies, rich with trade, factories, and history. The people believed they were untouchable. No enemy had ever broken through its massive defense grid. That belief ended the moment the humans arrived. The first black warship appeared in orbit without warning. Its size dwarfed anything Varela's defense fleet had ever seen. Then came another, and another. In less than a minute, 20 human ships hung over the planet like silent predators. Governor Marr rushed to the command center. "Shields up. Fire everything we have." Missiles streaked into the sky. Laser batteries opened fire. The humans did not move. The first wave of Union missiles exploded against the warship's armor and did nothing. The second wave vanished. In midair, swallowed by some invisible shield, the people of Varela watched from the ground as their weapons simply disappeared before reaching the enemy. Whispers spread through the streets. "They're unstoppable. They're not even trying to dodge." On the lead ship, Admiral Kalen stood at the center of the bridge. He did not give the order to fire, not yet. He let the Union forces throw everything they had. Let them understand how powerless they were. When the last of Varela's missiles faded into harmless light, Kalen finally spoke. "Target their defense grid. No survivors." The human ships moved as one. Beams of searing white light lanced out, cutting through the planet's orbital stations in seconds. The explosions were so bright that the people on the surface shielded their eyes. Within minutes, the defense grid collapsed. Varela was open. Governor Marr sent a desperate message to the Union capital. "They're breaking through. We need reinforcements now." No reinforcements came. The Union's other border worlds were already under attack. In the sky, the humans descended lower. Their weapons began targeting the planet itself. Factories burned first, massive explosions sending black smoke high into the clouds. The spaceport followed, a single blast turning its landing fields into molten glass. People ran through the streets, screaming as firestorms roared through the city. Buildings crumbled, their foundations shaking from orbital strikes. The sound was deafening, a constant mix of explosions, alarms, and the terrified cries of millions. Inside the Union's local fleet command bunker, Captain Selra stared at the tactical screen. Her forces were down to 3 working ships. Her voice was flat as she reported to the governor. "Governor, it's over. We can't stop them." Governor Marr slammed his fist on the table. "Then we'll make them pay for every meter they take." Sarah shook her head. "They've already taken the whole planet. You just haven't realized it yet." From his flagship, Kalen watched the destruction below. This was more than a battle. This was a message. A warning to the galaxy. "Open." "The comes," Kalen ordered. A single broadcast went out to every system within range. It carried no threats, no demands, only a short statement: "We do not want peace. We want memory." The words echoed across the galaxy. On distant worlds, people stared at their screens, feeling the weight behind those words. Some wept. Some raged, but all understood. This was vengeance, pure and unshakable. On Virella, the humans began their final strike. Massive rail cannons fired from orbit, tearing through the planet's crust. The ground split open. Lava poured into the streets, turning entire districts into rivers of fire. Governor Marr made one last broadcast before the communications tower was destroyed. "To the Union, tell them, the ghosts of Earth are real." In less than 2 hours, Virella was nothing but a burning wasteland. No defenses. No government. No hope. The human fleet pulled away slowly, leaving the planet in flames. From orbit, it looked like a glowing ember floating in the dark. On the bridge, Commander Rin turned. To Kalen. "They'll never forgive this." Kalen's voice was calm. "They already burned our world. Forgiveness was never part of this." He turned to his helmsman. "Set course for the next target. We burn until the capital falls." The Union sphere, the High Council chamber of the Galactic Union, had never felt so small. Its walls, normally alive with the hum of political chatter, now held only silence and fear. On the center holoscreen, Virella burned. The live feed came from a Union reconnaissance drone, one of the few that had survived the human attack. The image showed black smoke curling into space, the cities nothing but molten craters. No one spoke at first. Even the most arrogant council. Members stared in disbelief. Finally, Counselor Vorn broke the silence. They didn't just take the planet, they erased it. Counselor Mott, an older and wiser voice, leaned forward. "It is a message. They want us to understand what they are capable of." Vorn shook his head. "No, they want us to remember Earth." In the far corner, Archivist Terev rose from his seat. His species lived for centuries, and his personal memory stretched back nearly 1,000 years. "I have seen these ships before," he said slowly. "Not in reality, in the archives. The last time they came, our ancestors ended them." "Ended?" Mott scoffed. "They survived 30,000 years in hiding. That is not an ending." Terev's voice dropped to a whisper. "There was a prophecy. A warning passed from one generation to the next. The ashes will rise, and the void will burn." The council erupted in arguments. Some demanded an immediate counterattack with every ship the Union had. Others wanted to open peace talks before more worlds burned. But no one could agree on one fact. Could they even stop the humans? Meanwhile, deep in the Union's military command bunker, Admiral Soren reviewed the battle reports. What he saw made his blood run cold. Virella's defense grid had been bypassed as if it didn't exist. Their strongest orbital platforms had been destroyed in less than 30 seconds. The humans had used weapons with no known energy signatures, no countermeasures, no weaknesses. "This is impossible," one of his officers said, voice trembling. "Nothing we have can stop them." Sovereign's jaw tightened. "Then we will have to think of something, or watch the Union burn." Across the galaxy, panic spread faster than any fleet could move. Border worlds began evacuating. Refugee ships clogged hyperspace lanes, fleeing toward the core worlds. News networks replayed the same horrifying images, black ships emerging. From the void, planets disappearing in fire. The humans had not asked for surrender. They had not made demands. They only burned. In the capital's crowded streets, ordinary citizens whispered the old stories. Children asked their parents what Earth was. The older ones told them, a planet of oceans and forests, destroyed long ago because its people would not kneel. Now, those people had returned. The Union's president, Lorene, called for a private emergency session with her closest advisors. When the doors closed, her voice was grim. If we attack, we will lose ships we cannot replace. If we negotiate, we risk showing weakness. If we do nothing, her military advisor finished the sentence for her. They will reach the capital. Back in the dark void, far from the capital, the human fleet sailed onward. Inside his flagship, Admiral Kalen reviewed intercepted Union transmissions. He listened to their fear, their arguments, their desperation. It was exactly what he wanted. Commander. Rin approached. They're already moving ships to defend the capital. Kalen smiled faintly. Good. Let them gather. We'll crush them all at once. On the Union capital world, preparations began. Warships filled the docks. Planetary shields were powered to maximum strength. Elite soldiers trained day and night. Still, the shadow of fear hung over them. They had seen what happened to Virella. No one wanted to believe their world could be next. But deep down, they all knew it could. The offer the Union capital's skies had never been this quiet. Millions of people stood in the streets, staring upward. There was no sound, no engines, no weapons fire, just a single black warship, floating above the planet like a shadow that had swallowed the sun. Every news channel broadcast the same image. The warship, unmoving, its jagged hull reflecting no light. It did not blink, did not flinch, did not speak. Until it did, a deep voice rolled across every communication channel in the system. It was not rushed, not angry. It was cold, steady, and heavy with purpose. Leaders of the Galactic Union, you have 7 days. The entire capital froze. 7 days to return every archive, every name, every voice you stole from Earth, every record of our history that you erased, every image, every word, every fragment. If even one is missing, your worlds will burn. As ours did. The voice paused, as if giving the galaxy time to breathe and to feel the weight of the promise. We are not here to talk. We are not here to forgive. We are here to finish what you started. Then the transmission cut. Inside the High Council chamber. Panic erupted. Counselor Vorn slammed his fist on the table. We can't give them everything. Those archives contain technology, intelligence. They don't care about the technology. Counselor Mott snapped. They want their history back. The Union President, Lorene, raised her voice. They want more than history. They want revenge. The question is, do we survive it? In the shadows of the chamber, military advisor Admiral Soren stood silent. When he finally spoke, his words chilled everyone. Virella burned in less than 2 hours. Imagine what they could do to the capital in 2 minutes. Counselor Vorn turned pale. You're suggesting we surrender? I'm suggesting we live, Soren said simply. While the council argued, the human fleet didn't wait. On day 1 of the 7, a border world named Thrilla went dark. Its defense fleet, to 400 ships strong, vanished without a single distress. Call Day 2, the humans struck Gathrin's mining colonies. The planet's crust split open, swallowing entire cities into rivers of molten rock. Survivors spoke of silent black ships that appeared in the sky without warning, their weapons striking faster than the eye could follow. By day 3, panic gripped the galaxy. Union citizens demanded their leaders give the humans whatever they wanted. But in the council, hardliners refused, claiming that surrender would make the Union look weak. They argued for a massive counterattack. That same night, a group of Union spies boarded a captured human vessel in secret, hoping to steal their technology. Only one returned. The survivor was brought before the council, half his body replaced. With crude medical implants, his skin pale and cold. When asked what happened, he simply whispered, "They have gods." The room fell silent. "They don't fight like us," the spy continued, his voice shaking. "They have machines that think, weapons that feel. I saw one. It looked at me. I swear it saw through me. And then it let me go, so I could tell. You." On the 6th day, the Union capital braced for the inevitable. Shields were raised to full power. The fleet took position in high orbit. Soldiers filled the streets. Still, no one slept. On the 7th day, the humans returned. But this time, it wasn't just one warship. The sky turned black as the entire fleet appeared. Thousands of jagged, silent ships surrounded the planet, blotting out the stars. Every scanner lit up with red alerts. Then, once again, Admiral Kellen's voice filled the air. "Have you brought our history?" The Union president stood in the council chamber, staring at the transmission screen. "Yes," she said, her voice steady, but her hands trembling. "We have gathered everything, every record, every voice." Kellen's eyes were unreadable. "Transmitted now." Data began to flow. Terabytes of files, images, videos, ancient recordings of Earth's last days. Kalen stood motionless as the streams of human history returned home. But when the last file was sent, he did not leave. Fire. Across the stars, the Union's capital world was silent. Every citizen stared at the sky, waiting for the human fleet to vanish. The archives had been returned. The promise had been kept. Surely, that would be enough. It wasn't. From orbit, Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship. The files had been received. Every image, every recording, every fragment of Earth's history that had been stolen. He had listened to the last screams of his ancestors, heard the roar of oceans boiling, seen the light fade from a world that had once been home, and he had made his decision. "Target the planetary defense grid," he ordered. "Fire on my mark, on the capital." Alarms began to scream. Union soldiers scrambled into position. Fighter craft launched from the surface, racing upward to meet the black wall of human warships. The people in the streets looked up and saw the sky turn white. Beams of searing light lanced down, cutting through the city's shield domes like paper. One by one, the great towers fell, their spires shattering as explosions rippled through the streets. But the humans didn't stop at the capital. In orbit, Commander Rin watched the tactical map. Multiple human fleets were moving, not just here, but across the galaxy. They had been hiding ships in deep space, waiting for this moment. 3 more worlds under attack, she reported. Union fleets in retreat. Civilian ships flooding. The hyperspace lanes. Kellen's voice was calm, almost cold. "Burn them all. Let the galaxy know there is no safe place." The Union tried to fight back. Massive warships, the pride of their navy, moved in to engage the humans. But it was like watching insects fly into a fire. Human weapons sliced through their armor in seconds, tearing entire fleets apart before they could even coordinate an attack. Every human strike was deliberate. Power plants, shipyards, communication hubs. Kalen wanted the Union not just beaten, but silenced. On the agricultural world of Trenorus, farmers dropped their tools and fled for the hills as the sky filled with black ships. Orbital strikes turned the green fields into ash, the rivers into boiling steam. In the mining belts of Halverin, entire asteroid colonies were ripped apart, their fragments scattering into the void like glowing embers. Everywhere, The same message appeared on every screen, in every language. Remember Earth. In the Union High Council chamber, chaos reigned. Councillor Vorn shouted for a ceasefire. Councillor Mott demanded the evacuation of the core worlds. President Lorene slammed her. Hands on the table. They're not fighting for peace, she said. They're fighting to erase us, just like we erased them. Admiral Solren looked up from his console. It won't stop until the Union is nothing but ruins. Back on the flagship, Kalen stood in front of the great display showing the galaxy. Dozens of red flares mark worlds under attack. His officers looked at him, waiting for the next order. Move on the capital fleet, he said. When they're gone, we burn the heart. The battle over the capital raged. Union ships fought with desperate courage, but every minute another vessel was destroyed. Some tried to ram the human warships, hoping to take at least one enemy. Down with them, but even those sacrifices failed. Their hulls vaporized before impact dot in the streets below. The people of the capital watched the fight from behind shattered windows. Some prayed, some cursed. Most simply waited for the end. Inside the command center, President Lorene received the latest report. Our defense fleet is down to 30 ships. We can't hold much longer. She closed her eyes. Then we don't hold. We run. Evacuation orders went out. Shuttles lifted off, fleeing into the void, but many never made it past the atmosphere. From his flagship, Kalen gave the order. All ships, finish it. A storm of fire rained down on the capital. Massive railguns ripped open the ground, while energy beams reduced entire districts to glowing glass. The great spire of the council collapsed in a cloud of smoke and dust dot in minutes. The political heart of the Union was gone. Ashes and silence. The human fleet drifted through the void, silent as ever. Before them lay their final target, Origin, the first world of the Galactic Union. It was not the largest planet, nor the richest, but it was the Union's heart. Every treaty had been signed there. Every war had been planned there. It was where the order to destroy Earth had been given 30,000 years ago. Admiral Kalen stood at the center of the flagship's bridge. The stars glinted cold in his eyes as he looked at the holographic map. Origin was heavily defended, more than any other world in the galaxy. A wall of ships encircled it, hundreds of defense platforms orbiting like a fortress. Commander Rin stepped forward. They know we're coming, she said. They've brought every fleet they have left. Kellen's voice was calm, almost soft. Good. Let them all die in one place. The Union forces opened fire first. Beams of light and missile trails filled the void, streaking toward the black ships. The human fleet moved in silence, their hulls absorbing or deflecting the barrage. Then they answered dot in a single coordinated strike. The humans tore through the Union's front lines. Warships exploded like shattered glass. Defense platforms split in half, drifting as glowing wreckage. The sky above Origin turned into a graveyard. Of burning ships dot from the planet's surface, the people watched their last line of defense fall. Some fled to underground shelters. Others climbed to rooftops, refusing to hide from what was coming. The old ones whispered the name of Earth, as if speaking it might change their fate. On the bridge, Kellen's eyes never left the burning void ahead. When the last Union fleet broke apart, Commander Rin asked the question everyone was thinking. What now? Kellen's answer was one word. End. The order went out. Human ships formed a perfect circle around Origin, their weapons charging. The ground trembled as the first orbital strikes slammed into the surface. Great cities crumbled, their spires falling into the sea. The oceans boiled, sending clouds of steam into the sky dot. Then came the planet breakers, weapons designed not to conquer, but to erase. They struck deep into Origin's crust, tearing open molten wounds that bled fire into the atmosphere. From orbit, origin began to change. Its colors faded from green and blue to black and red. Flames spread across continents. The night side glowed brighter than the day. President Loreen's final broadcast echoed through the Union's channels. To the children of Earth, you have destroyed us. But know this, you have made the galaxy fear you more than it will ever respect you. Her voice cut to static dot inside the flagship. Kalen stood before the image of Earth's soil. The planet that had been stolen from them could never be restored, but vengeance had been delivered. For the first time in his life, the weight on his shoulders seemed lighter. Commander Rin approached quietly. "It's over," she said. "The Union is gone." Kalen shook his head. "No, we are gone." Confused, she looked at him. He turned away from the display and walked toward the command chair. "For 30,000 years, we have been the shadow, the ghost. Now the galaxy knows our face. That cannot last. We vanish again, until we are needed." The orders were sent. The human fleet disengaged, leaving Origin burning in the void. One by one, the black ships disappeared into deep space, their trails fading into nothing. Weeks later, traders and refugees passed through the ruins of the Union's worlds. They spoke of the silence that now hung across the galaxy. Worlds that once roared with life were now empty, their cities nothing but ash dot. No one saw the humans again. Not for years. Not for centuries. But every so often, in the darkest corners of space, a voice would break through the static of old channels, cold and clear. "Remember Earth."